This tutorial is on the Equipment Add Portal, Equipment Data Portal and Services. Basically what this screen does is you add each piece of equipment that's going to be in the equipment rental inventory. You add the data for it. For example, in the first two fields are the primary fields in this parent record. The hedge trimmer, 25-inch electric, is the name of the item. You want to keep this brief, short, so that it fits into the structure of the other documents and forms. You can put an equipment type, which is a grouping, and this is actually a drop-down list that you can modify to add additional equipment using the equipment add and edit thing. This is a listing thing where you add a new record, type in the title for it, and then it'll appear in this list. You can move between the items by clicking in the button on the portal itself to move through them. To return to the equipment services, you go back to this way. The two buttons at the top are very critical. This one adds the equipment. This is like the add new button, so you're adding a piece of equipment. This one is used when you want to go actually to the edit appointment screen, where when you're in the edit appointment screen and you're looking at the information for the listed items or the available system tools as far as the equipment that's in the inventory. This would be the static location where we talked about this before. If you click on this at the end of the row, it'll bring you into this screen, and then you can look at the actual piece of equipment that you were viewing on the calendar edit appointment screen. That will bring you back to the record here in this system. And like I said, if you want to return to that exact record, you can come back in, and then you would see the edits or changes that you made in this area for the active item. For example, if I change this status here and then I went into that record, that status would be changed as far as this status right here. So you have some interaction between the calendar and the edit area on the edit appointment screen. Let's talk about a couple of the fields in here. The serial number is another very important part of this application in that it distinguishes one item from another. So when we're doing service or whatever, this record is the parent record to the portal. So in that portal, this record would have only that serial number items for service. The same thing for the work order. It would be covered anytime there's a work order for this particular serial number. It would be indicated in here in its own record. So what happens is all service is tied back to the parent record for this piece of equipment. If I move between this screen and another screen, you would see that the other item is now the parent record portal child record here, where it lists that item instead of the other one. There's also a materials used. This is for the service down here. This record, or this portal, which is the equipment service plan, is the planning record for all service that needs to be done. And if you cycle every so often, for example, if this is a scheduled item that comes in on a return basis every so many days, this would be the days intervals in this screen. It would, for example, every 6 months, every 30 days. Then you do it from whatever date you're starting it at. So if you're just going to start the initial service and then you did 180 days, the next time you do it, the date that is in this area would now be down here +1, and then it would go another 180 days if you're recycling the service that has to be redone again. This can carry an infinite number of service activities, so you can have those in this portal. If you use the button at the end of the row, you can go to the service equipment portal, do searches there for specific equipment, or you can use the list view to see what information and what schedule items are in place at this time that need to be done. The date will differentiate which items are already passed and should have already been serviced, and which ones are in the future that have to be done. The service date due is the service date the next time that is going to be due. So you can do a find within the portal to find anything within a day or date range that is related to both the date and the type of equipment that you're looking for. Also within this record, you'll see that there is a purchase date when the item was first purchased, and this will generate when you put the date in, an age. In this case, it's 467 days old, which is 15.57 months, and the original purchase price was $430. This information is good when you're looking at the relative lifespan and the activity and usage, where you can see if this equipment pays itself back for how many rentals you're doing. If you're trying to plan what a rental cost can be and you want to amortize this over 180 days or 365 or whatever to see if it's going to pay back itself within that period of time, you could use this information on its aging and the actual amount of leases or rentals that you had in order to see if it paid for itself in that period of time. There is a rental standard rate that you can put in here, and whether or not it's a day, month, week, or year type of rental. And this also projects back to the invoice and some of the other screens, the parent screens within the booking area. So you can see this information like on the invoice setup. When you're doing the billing, this information is used within the billing screen. The status information is reflected in quite a few different places, but the most obvious one where you'd want to use this by changing this is just to set the status for the equipment main static list, and you would put in this, whatever the relative status is for this period of time. That way it'd reflect back on the calendar appointment edit screen so you can see whether this equipment is available or not, or rented, or you have to do something else to it, like deliver it, so that it would end up in the delivery area as far as that calendar aspect would be covered. There's equipment parts. If you suppliers, you can list as many part suppliers in here as you need to. The comment area down here is the last comment that was made on this item. As far as in the static screen on the edit appointment screen, you'd want to be able to see this to see what might be going on as far as the last time this was changed. This can be modified on the calendar edit appointment screen, and it would reflect and change in here. So if somebody's visiting this record and it was coming, say, into service in a couple of days, it might be important to look in here to see if this has got scheduled maintenance coming up or service where a rental might impact that service and change the date of the service itself. That way you would take it from available or if it was being quoted out or pending reservations, you could look at it to make sure it's still available and mark it as such. If it's going into service, you would want to make sure that that was marked for being in service or planned service. These are just general comments you can make about the record in any respect, and they do not affect the parts supplier or whatever. These stay within this particular parent screen. Let's go take a look at the actual equipment listing. In the equipment listing, if you want to follow through on equipment to see what is actually available, you could also use this screen, and it has the status showing in this screen. You'll notice in the screen that if you had trimmers, they would list all the different trimmers, and then it would also list them in group by the type of trimmer. So you'd want to kind of, if this is the same piece of equipment, only a different serial number, and they're identical, you would want to repeat the same information as far as the title of the type of equipment. So that way they would group together and they would be obviously the same piece of equipment or not. And in this screen, you can also change the status if you need to. So this could also be used as a what to do as far as what is the current situation for this or these pieces of equipment. So this would be a very fast way if you did a find to look for trimmers to see what's available and what is now in use or rented. And the same thing goes if you wanted to look for a specific thing like all rented equipment. You could do a search by rented equipment and bring up that list. And likewise for all available equipment or by group, you could do a find for trimmers or whatever equipment. When you do this in the find mode, this would drop down and you could pick whatever type of equipment and then show just that equipment, or you could carry it further to the specific type of equipment that you want to look for. And the same thing goes for the serial number. You could look for a particular serial number if you wanted to. So all these drop downs are very helpful when you're using the equipment portal listing. That concludes this lesson for the equipment set up